All right. Good morning. We are at day 56, and I'm Pastor Stacy, the family pastor. I'm glad to be back here again. And I've got one of my closest friends ever, Janeen Doe. Janeen, tell us a little bit how long you guys have been coming to Gold Creek, and what do you do around here?
Okay.
A lot.
We've been coming since about, my kids were about 5th, 6th grade, and they're in their senior year of college. So I don't want to do math. Anyway, forever. I'm involved in the cafe, and I just do stuff like this when I get asked. So
yes,
fun.
And lots of you've been in lots of different groups, women's groups, couples groups, and we became friends through both of our boys. They were best friends and still are, and we've just come to do life together.
Absolutely, vacation and cry and laugh, and
lots of laugh, and sometimes laugh and cry at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we really were given
a gift. A gift.
We could say that. Some interesting passages. We're in Leviticus, which, Genesis and Exodus, the stories are so rich.
Yes.
And I look forward to reading them. Leviticus, not so much.
A lot of rules.
So many rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get into that. The first one in Leviticus 16 is talking about denying yourself during a time. I think it specifically says one day during the 10th month of in the fall. Yes. Right. And so really they're talking about fasting. Have you ever chosen to fast at any particular time in your life? It's kind of a vulnerable question, but you don't have to say why. But
yeah, absolutely.
And was it difficult, and did you find it helpful?
I think it's helpful that the fact that you do concentrate, you get hungry, and you get craving whatever you're fasting from. And it definitely helps you focus on something. If you choose to focus on God, that's the whole point. You will, I think you're closer to God, you hear God, you're actually giving your attention to him to listen. And so I think it makes a big difference.
And it helps me the few times that I've done it in my life. Usually it's something that I'm either struggling to know how to handle, or I need some wisdom and discernment. And it just gives me peace because I'm able to give whatever worry, whatever stress is going on in my life, I'm able to give that to him. And that time of fasting has helped me to focus on that. So Leviticus 17 goes into the rules of the sacrifices. There was so much. And what stood out to you with that?
With all the sacrifices? I would say just the fact that he was constantly coming up with new ways they had to sacrifice for another sin that the people would yet introduce into the world. And he was constantly coming up with ways for them to redeem themselves some way to get that off of their heart and connect them to God again. And it's one thing and then another thing and then another thing. It's like human race keeps finding more ways to offend God, more ways to separate themselves from God. And God kept having to come up. He couldn't kill them all like he did in the day of Noah. Like, I'm done. Clean slate, start over. This isn't working.
Because he promised he would never do that again.
So now it's like, who knows? Maybe it's every 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. Who knows? He comes back and said, okay, now you're detesting your body and you're being detestable and you're defiling your body in this way, in this way, in this way. Don't do it. First, he had to point it out. That's not okay. And then here's what you can do to purify yourself. And so it was just a nonstop.
I love when we were talking earlier, you were talking about, again, both of us all of our children are adults.
Yes.
And the way you had laid it out, I was like, oh, that's so true. The different stages. And we've got people that are watching that are in that toddler age.
Yes.
And then in the tween and teen and then adult. But how the rules change, and how did you laid it out so well.
Right. So the children of Israel were children, and their children were more children. And the more generations came, the more sin they caused, it seemed. So it's almost God is constantly saying, okay, now I have a 2-year-old. Now you're doing this. And when we have 2-year-olds, okay, don't touch that. Don't do that. You're going to cut yourself. And then there's rules. And then 3 years later, they're 5. Now there's new rules. You're going to school. Now you have to behave. You can't hit. You can't punch. And 3 years later, so every 3 years, we're changing the rules and updating the rules for our children. God is doing the same thing with these Israelites. They constantly have to keep being reprimanded or being told what they're doing wrong, and here's how to get back on track. And so this whole 16, 17, and 18, now God is telling them, these are all the sexual things you can't do. And these were the people, the Canaanites, as well as the Egyptians that you just left, they're doing this. Whether or not the Israelites are doing this at this point, we don't know. But here's what don't do. This is what you're going to encounter. Don't do it. Don't have sex with your mom, your dad, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your, relatives. Don't be homosexual activities. All of these things are defiling yourself from God.
Yeah.
It's not saying that the people were detestable, but those acts were detestable. And so many acts we accept as, I wouldn't have sex with my dad, my brother, my cousins, my uncles, my my grandparents. But yet other acts people are accepting these days. And it's like, well, do we come back to this is what the Bible says or what it doesn't? We have to accept it. We just have to walk people through that sin. And that's where God comes in, where Jesus comes in.
And I love that you say that God never, he still, especially with Jesus, he does not find us detestable.
No.
We mess up a lot. And, back in 17, when again, it's talking about all of the blood, and there in 17:11, it says, it is the blood given in exchange for a life that makes purification possible. And it made me think of communion and how powerful that is. And sometimes we just take it for granted. We get a little bit used to it. And even when it's explained to us, the bread represents his body that was broken, and the juice represents Jesus's blood that was spilled for us. It literally was spilled for us for all of the times that we mess up.
Right.
And again, you had worded it well. I think you've got it written here that Jesus was the final solution for his plan to save us, and how we can. Knowing that, how we can even see it in the Old Testament, I think is just
absolutely
beautiful.
So since Jesus, he walked on earth, he gave us more instruction. But since then, there's been no other instruction.
Yeah.
Just what to expect when he comes back. And so all of those rules and all those years of constant reprimanding and atoning and all of that came to the end when Jesus was born and his blood was finally spilt. End of story. End of having to appease God. All we have to do now is accept that that's what the plan is, and that's what God chose, and that's how God sent. And it seems so easy now, but it's still so hard for some people to accept.
I smile because I love your heart. I'm like, oh, you can fill in for Pastor Dan one of these Sundays. I do. I love it that your faith exudes from you, and you are so loving to so many people. And we have experienced just brokenness in both of our families and different things. But I see how you treat everybody. And it's, again, one of the reasons why I'm so blessed to call you my friend. Okay. He also says in 18:5, and this reminded me of what I often say in kids ministry. God says to them, if you obey my decrees and my regulations, you will find life through them. I am the Lord. And especially as we would teach the 10 Commandments in kids, I often would remind them, these rules, just like your parents, as we give our rules to our kids, it's not because we're wanting to punish them. It's because we want them to have life more abundantly. We want them to experience joy and happiness and peace. And I often will talk about, to say to the kids, that feeling you get in your tummy when you did something wrong? That's a good, healthy feeling. That's conviction. Yeah. And when we follow these decrees and regulations, we don't have to experience that feeling as often, which is a good thing.
Right.
Heading over, there was so much in Leviticus.
Yeah, I think we got the longest day of the year. Yeah. That's okay.
Heading into the New Testament, we had Mark 7, and there was a couple of different stories of healing. He healed the little girl that was possessed with demons, but she wasn't even in his presence. The parent came to Jesus and said, could you please, he was a Gentile, and said, please, it might have been the mom, actually.
The mom.
And she was saying, could you please come heal my daughter? And Jesus is saying, well, I need to go take care of my people first. And she said, well, even dogs that are under the table get the scraps from those eating at the table. And Jesus was so impressed with, you just want a morsel of what I can. Go home and you will find that your daughter is well. And she was.
By her faith.
Yes.
By her faith. And I know you can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's that whole mustard seed amount.
Absolutely.
And then
I think that impresses him.
Yes.
Like, oh, you get it.
Mm.
I think that's the best part. And he's not here with us now.
Yes.
But if we had that same faith, he's happy with us. I think it's just.
Well, and he left that power with us
Absolutely.
through the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
Let's see, going into Psalms, it just was a reminder to me, the joys of those who are kind to the poor. It was a great reminder of just being generous with our resources, time, and talents. I thought of you because I probably shouldn't put this out there because people are going to reach out to you, but she is the ultimate handyman. I mean, you do full construction jobs. Any job we have needed help with at our home, my husband is like, oh, let's get Janeen on the phone, and you are there and you help so many people, but you are so generous with your talent and your time and your treasures, all of it. In Proverbs, again, similar, the earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money on sin. And just how I have experienced in my own life blessings when I am more generous and help others. It's a biblical concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically the earnings of your godly enhance their lives. I think it also goes back to tithing.
Yes.
If you are wise with what you get, God's going to bless it.
Yeah.
And it's going to grow, and it's going to be easy to give it away because you know God's going to give you more. I mean, that's kind of how it works. The jar fills up, you empty it, he fills it up again, whether it's with energy or with love or forgiveness or money. I mean,
yeah.
God
it goes back to the faith, just having faith that he's going to take care of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this was great. I think you probably could just do a whole month's worth, and you'll probably be invited back for sure.
This is good.
Keep on with it. We are day 56. Just make goals a little bit at a time. That will keep you more focused. So get to day 100 and then go from there and extend. So stick with it. Like, subscribe, share with others. And if you've missed a couple days, don't be too hard on yourself. Just get back on it.
Absolutely.